Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins with an accountant waiting with a dozen or so binoculars in the middle of a Californian desert. A car turns onto the chair-covered road, purposely swerving into everyone that it can before pulling up for the police sheriff to exit the trunk. The fourth wall-breaking Chad goes on to monologue for 2 minutes straight about how so many moments in movies happen for absolutely no reason at all. Setting the tone for this purposefully random series of events, the accountant hands out the binoculars to a group of spectators waiting to watch the movie. The sheriff gets in the trunk again and leaves to become a character in the film while the accountant pedals away on his bicycle to return to us later. The audience all peer into the distance and focus in on our protagonist, who's just a regular old rubber tire named Robert. He suddenly gains sentience to drag himself up from the dirt, and just like a giraffe on Animal Planet, the baby must first learn to walk. He staggers a few times before standing upright and rolling over to his first unnatural obstacle in the form of a water bottle. The plastic crumbles beneath the tire as well as the scorpion that follows, but when encountering a glass beer bottle, it gives our lead actor some trouble. Robert begins to get angry and discovers that he has the ability to psychokinetically shatter objects just by focusing on them with his rubber brain. It gives him a little extra swagger to his role from here on out, and the spectators make comments throughout the film like, "What the heck is going on?" The two film buffs Charley and Ethan call out all of the common movie tropes that they notice, as if anything makes sense in this film anyway. They tell the pirate to quit recording like they're in a cinema, and that night even a hard-working tire needs to get some sleep. In the morning, the shifty accountant steals various spectators' valuables before waking them up for another day of whatever the hell this is. Continuing with our Nat Geo documentary, Robert finds a nice watering hole like he's a buffalo before learning that his psychokinesis works on the natural wildlife. He develops a bloodlust as the tin cans just weren't cutting it and tries to use his power on the first human he sees, but only manages to stall her car. Rob creeps up on the runaway Sheila, but he must have a field of view because a truck sideswipes him in a violent hit and run before just leaving the scene. Sheila gets her car started and also just drives off, leaving our synthetic friend to drag himself up from the dirt again and follow the fellow tires. The road leads him to the sideswiper pulled over at a gas station, and when the man doesn't even apologize, it makes Robert angry. He begins shaking and musters up enough strength to pop the man's head before continuing to search for the runaway witness. Finding Sheila's car parked at a motel, he rolls up to her room and watches her showering through the open door like a regular old peeper. Charley remarks that he's seen better, but I'm sure this dude means in a movie or something, and it causes everybody else to get more vocal. Most of the audience are credited with names like Dad and the obvious son, as well as Woman and most importantly Man in Wheelchair. While these girls are given the actual names Cindy and Fiona and tell everybody to shut up so that we can continue the movie. The tire's fallen in love with the human, but she doesn't feel the same way, so he goes next door to watch women on TV and rubber one out instead. As the spectators settle in for the night, Bowe brings over one of Robert's furry victims, causing the girls to freak out, but the film buffs assure them that this is all just fake. In the morning, the accountant receives a call from someone he calls Master, while a gobbling bedroom turkey nervously awaits its impending doom. Under the orders of the mysterious supervisor, the accountant roasts the bird and delivers it to the waking audience, who all must be starving. They politely share it around, except for the one I'm going to name William Wallace, as to not have to keep calling him the dude in the wheelchair. William's too busy enjoying the show, and just as well, because it was murder most foul, as the poultry was poisoned by the accountant. All the spectators die in excruciating pain while William ignores their cries for help to watch a maid enter the tire's bedroom without even knocking. She finds Robert naked in the shower and tosses him outside, not realizing the wrath that she just brought down upon herself. The sentient tire gets noticed re-entering the room by Zach, whose father's made out to be the bad guy because he doesn't believe his son's outlandish story. He sends Zach to pick up a pizza, and the demonic boy decides to put roadkill on it, which gets the appropriate reaction from this hippie. Meanwhile, the tire, who appears to relate to turtles, has blown up the maid's head and continues to fixate on Sheila. He follows her to a swimming pool, and when she departs, a depressed Robert tries to drown himself, but it doesn't work because he's a tire. Sheila notices police arrive from the crappy diner, but it's just the sheriff Chad, who's a complete douche about everything and takes nothing seriously. He waffles on about how weird it is that we can't see oxygen when Zach arrives with the roadkill pizza, but it disappears after this scene. He tries to convince the sheriff that the tire in the pool's actually the murderer, but Robert may actually have drowned because he doesn't respond. It could also just be because he's a tire, and since the audience should all be dead from the poison, Chad tells everybody to pack up as the show's all over. The other officers are bamboozled and even agree to fill the immortal man full of bullets to have it proven to them that none of this is actually real. To Chad's surprise, though, Officer Denise says the maid is still missing her head when suddenly the accountant arrives to tell him the movie's still rolling. Apparently it all hinders on William's refusal to eat the poison, so Chad must return to his regular duties of interviewing the witnesses and acting like a real cop. The throw from Mr. Hugues must resuscitate Robert because he now sits up and pops the dad's head all over Chad before just rolling away. Realizing that the disgusting little kid was right all along, the sheriff chalks the mate up to roadkill as if he isn't part of whatever the hell's going on anyway. Meanwhile, Robert has a brief existential crisis when he catches a glimpse of his reflection and begins contemplating the meaning of life. Zach confronts his father's killer with person words like Robert's actually going to respond, but once again this is a tire without a mouth. Nearby, Chad gives officers a briefing on a tire's appearance and how you shouldn't judge it by the color of its rubber but by the content of its character. They get alerted by Zach to his last location, but the officer who makes first contact just gets his head turned into rather nasty flesh ribbons. Meanwhile, the accountant tries poison William with more food in hopes of ending the movie early, but he's too heavily invested in the story. While trying to convince him in a long conversation, the idiot just ends up eating the wrong plate of food and poisons himself. He begs for help in an ironically long scene before finally dying and allowing William to perpetuate the movie in peace. While on the run, Robert comes across a massacre of humans tossing his kind into a large bonfire without any remorse for the poor Robert. It must set him off because we flash forward to 3 days later after Robert's further killing spree, as I guess some of those tires were his friends. He sulks alone to himself in one of his victims' homes watching NASCAR, but has been tracked down by Big D and her partner Doug. They drag Chad away from his game of chess, where he seems to just be doing any old illegal move anyway, to tell him Robert's location. The tire's traitorous love interest aids the officers in setting up a trap where they rig a mannequin that looks like her with dynamite. Sheila lures Robbie outside with a mixture of seductive talk and talking crap in an attempt to get the mannequin's head and explosives blown up. However, the terrible script's written by Chad, and when he takes over reading himself, it kills any rubber boner that the tire might have had. I'm not sure why they think he would kill the girl of his dreams, and even William rolls all the way down the hill to call the sheriff out on it. He says they might as well hit it with a bazooka or something since it's just standing there, but the officers are pissed that Wheels didn't eat the turkey. When Robert finally destroys the mannequin's head to progress the story, the dynamite doesn't even explode as Chad's plan sucked from the beginning. He angrily marches into the house with a shotgun to do the job himself, disappointing William, who like all of us was hoping to see an explosion. Chad drags out Robert's shredded corpse and throws it at the wheels of William, but our protagonist doesn't die, and we get the best line of the movie.
"It's not the end! He's been reincarnated as a tricycle!"
The trike begins rolling towards the last remaining audience member, who nervously points out that he isn't a character like Sheila or Chad. But Robbie doesn't care and blows up William's entire body as the extra 2 wheels seem to have increased his power level. The sheriff doesn't see any of this happen as he's dropping Sheila off at her car and drives straight out of the movie after a job well done. The love interest gets to witness Bobby's final form, but he ignores the girl and pedals his way towards the sheriff's heading instead, in a scene that goes for 4 minutes straight of just this. Towards the end, Robert begins resurrecting all of the tires that he passes like a necromancer, and they roll up on Hollyweird a dozen strong, presumably to all become actors. And the movie ends.